energizer of the papaya that will help it. My thought about that is that it will probably vitalize it, but it won't bring back the pain. I don't use it.
I have nothing but wonderful statements about the grander Energizer. But a lot of people are making claims about it that simply are not so. It's wonderful if you have good water and run it through a unit. It will do what the living water unit is supposed to do. But if you have more chlorine, for example, if you have more than 1 part per million of chlorine, you're not going to be able to remove the chlorine from the water. If you have 1 part per million of fluoride, or more than that I should say, you won't be able to remove that chlorine or fluoride from the water. And I'm sure it's not going to get the pesticides out of a papaya. I think people go overboard in making claims that just cannot be substantiated scientifically. Bring that up to the head of the grander organization who'll be speaking here to you on the grander water, because of the quality of the grander water and what it does to help to heal, shall we say, all these polluted lakes and streams like they're doing in Austria and Germany now, the Czech Republic and so on. Yes, sir.
I have a few points. I have a few points left over for consideration from what we've just discussed in the last 10 or so minutes. One of them is that pawpaws are customarily dipped in rogor, a thing called rogor, which is a nerve poison. And it's a good idea to avoid having the skin. It's very good, the skin has carpine in it, lowers the high blood pressure, very therapeutic alkaloids. But you probably wouldn't want to eat it if it has this waxed coating on it that's designed to be resistant to rain. So we have a little problem there. You might want to concentrate on getting organic papaya. Also with kiwi fruit, these are often sprayed, so you definitely wouldn't ever use the skin of a kiwi fruit if it was sprayed. A lot of people like to eat it. They think it's good fiber, One other point was on pregnancy. My current understanding is we wouldn't ever go in for a high dose of protease or lymphatic enzymes during that time either. And just wanted to directly state that. John?
My feeling is take care of yourself before you get pregnant. And once you get pregnant, take care of that lady and don't put her under a lot of stress, no healing crisis, but give her a chance to keep peace and to nurture that unborn child until she can give birth to that child.
So don't get too attached to getting rid of the lymphatic rosary that you'll learn about in your iris if you're also planning on having a kid at the same time. You have to do one or the other for mutually exclusive for a period of time.
Thank you, sir. Alex?
Yes. You were talking about the pen there.
The Energizer?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
No, I haven't got the Energizer, but I boil my water every night, and I boil it after for 10 minutes, and I leave it at night, and and then in the morning I put it in my vessel. Then my friend Laura, when she comes to see me, and then she does 20 turns with the pen and keeps it for a minute, and we assume that it's all right. Is it all right?
Where's your water come from?
The tap from the water.
What town?
Sydney.
Sydney? No go.
So it's all a waste of time?
I feel so. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
I don't trust because of the high amount of the fluoride and chlorine that's in Sydney water. It's almost undrinkable.
Yes. So even going to the trouble of boiling it for the 10 minutes to get rid of it.
It gets rid of the chlorine, but it doesn't get rid of the fluoride.
I see. All right, that means I have a problem.
Yes, you do, sir. Everyone in Sydney has a problem. And the best thing to do is to follow Brisbane's example and get fluoride completely out of the Sydney water supply. It's an absolute poison to the body.
All right. Thanking you.
Yes, sir. Yes?
I come home, I have this water grinder installed. So is that, and also I have a filter under my sink. So can I use it both together as take out the chlorine and the fluoride?
The filter will not take out the fluoride.
It does.
There is not a filter in existence that will take out the fluoride. They will take out a certain percentage of the chlorine, provided that it is a good carbon filter.
It is.
But it won't take out the fluoride.
I don't know, I forgot.
Now, even a reverse osmosis, the very best you can get, if you can find one that works, will not take out the fluoride. It'll take out a certain percentage of it.
Oh, see. Thank you.
Okay? We're in trouble on that point. Yes, sir.
I was just wondering, John, if you have a bad heart and you take all the enzymes in the papaya and the kiwi fruit, but don't have any pressure points held, how effective is just the food and the enzymes?
There are some people that are on a nutritional program, and a good one, and they have a tendency to slowly get better. But if there are suppressed traumas, they don't ever seem to get in touch with those traumas just by being on a nutritional program. And this is why I'm thinking that a lot of people fool themselves into thinking all they need is a good nutritional program. They're going to have everything they need. Well, I don't think that's necessarily so, sir. How do I know that? Is because we have so many people that are into body electronics that are able to get full memory over their traumas pertaining to their heart conditions and also genetic conditions, and they go through wonderful changes that they would never go through on just a nutritional program alone. Okay?
What about distillation of waters?
Pardon me?
Distillation of water, distilling the water.
Oh, distillation of water. Yes, sir.
Is it safe?
There is so much information on the distillation of water. We'll say this much. When you heat something, you destroy the life within it.
No, after distillation, because there is a container in our cells, you distill the water and then they filter through a bag.
Yes, sir.
And then the water comes out. This is one of the purest water. They say sell in America.
That's what they tell you.
Yeah.
But it's still dead water. And if you take and study very carefully the work by Dr. Vincent on the bioelectric Vincent equipment that he had done, he's a hydrologist in France. He have proved conclusively that distilled water will put a person into what they call a cancer quadrant on his graph. And his recommendation is to stay totally away from any type of distilled water because of the cancer-causing properties of it. Now, that's heavy duty, but that's a bioelectrical Vincent equipment. I think in Perth, there's only one of those devices here in Australia. I think it's in Perth. Okay? Yes.
1 minute. Excuse me.
Pardon me?
If the living water gadget, does it destroy everything in the water, what they put in?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. It creates a condition that will help to carry it out of the body if there is only a very small amount, like 1 part per million of fluoride or 1 part per million of chlorine. If you get up to as high as 3 parts per million or of chlorine or fluoride, then it won't work anymore. It'll work only partially. But you can't guarantee that it's going to take out all the fluoride and chlorine. And you have a lot of sales pitches going on that are just invalid in that respect.
Thank you.
Okay? Good questions. Good solid questions. I appreciate these. Okay? Question in the back. Yes, sir?
Oh.
Distilled water.
Oh, excuse me.
Slides the formula that I bought. Oh, sorry.
We got the. Can we take this question first?
Pardon me?
Can we take this question?
Be fine.
Thank you.
I'd like to know if body electronics will help my son. He's schizophrenic, pretty crook. He's
So-
more or less non.
Would you take and eat the mic
more or less-
here?
more or
I
less
can't quite hear
non-committal.
you, sir.
I'd like to know if body electronics will help my son. He's more or less non-correspondent at all. He's schizophrenic type.
Did you make that up?
Yeah, he wants to know if body electronics would help his schizophrenic son.
Would body electronics help your schizophrenic son? I think body electronics has a way of helping a person help themselves. And on a good diet, first of all, this would be an absolute essential thing for the schizophrenia. And yes, they can be helped.
He's been vegetarian for 2 years.
Pardon me?
He's been vegetarian for 2 years. We slaughtered our pig 2 days before we got our videos. Pig we brought up pretty good too, I tell you. He had pawpaw leaves and anyhow. But he doesn't get any of that. He's on a vegetarian diet because he's less aggressive on a vegetarian diet.
How's he doing?
Well, he's not doing any good. He's been on all sorts of alternative ideas. Yeah,
Has he been on any point holding at all?
No. Like point holding for us was the first experience today.
I see. Okay. But yes, it could be helped. But with people who know what they're doing with the boy.
Yeah.
Okay. You got to be careful.
I got him on the niacin. Like we tried niacin before, but we didn't know we had to keep on going after the flushing. We just knew we had to take him to a flush.
Yeah.
But now we've got him on the niacin, and he's up now to 800.
Okay, if he's taking the niacin, make sure there's a balance with that and the other B vitamins, or it can be toxic to the liver.
Yeah, and actually our quack said that it would watch his heart as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Over here, sir. 2 gentlemen.
Thank you. I bought some Schweitzer formula the other day.
And it says use the distilled water.
Thank you.
That's what they put with that because they think that distilled water is pure. I think that you don't have to use the distilled water, but you can use anything you want that's where it's a pure water, basically. Fair enough?
Also on the Oxymag, they say on the bottle to use ascorbic acid with that, 500 milligrams. And we do not agree with that. We say to use orange juice or lemon juice with that. We do not recommend the ascorbic acid, which is stated on the bottle.
I hope you have read that material which exposes the scam of ascorbates and ascorbic acid and so on that many people are using. I hope you've read that in the handout. I should be on every one of you should have that in the handout. And this is something you should be completely aware of. I'm very grateful to Kyle because I gave away my original copy of it and it slipped away and I couldn't get one back because everyone else gave theirs away to other people. And after several years, Kyle gave me a copy that he had that he got from me in Byron Bay. Wasn't that Byron Bay? I think so. Might have been earlier. But anyway, I finally got a copy back, and we got copies for you in the current the handouts.
John, I was just wondering, as far as point holding goes, what's the least amount of people that can hold points on one person?
The least amount?
Of people.
One.
One can do it, okay.
And one can do a wonderful job, 1 point at a time, and some people are doing just that consistently and making continual progress.
Great, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Can one do self-point holding?
I used to say no, because I couldn't, because I was numb the elbows down. I go to every tell my points.
pouring every little point on the body and my result that when these points are out from this to half rest so on. This is how I discovered the cranial and the most full cranial brain in the world today. But the thing is, yes, you can hold your own points, but do them in sequence. You can't hold your spinal points, even though I've had some people devise the most god-awful type of equipment to do that. We had one man that has 120 different points, which little rods and bungee cords and so on, holding them all to, and he has this big thing that snaps shut and puts him in that thing, and he has to have somebody to get him out of it. And he has 120 points burning all at one time. Jim Graham over in Blenheim, New Zealand. But 120 points going all at once. He'll burn for 2 hours and get back up and go to work. But hey, about 10 years ago he had terminal cancer, and he's still going strong today. But that machine, he just climbs into it. He designed it himself, climbs into it, burns for 2 hours, and then gets out and goes back and works as a workaholic, you know. But he's still surviving this day.
Thank you.
Val.
I'd like to know if you've got a patient and you've point holded them and your points go dead, and then the word pattern, perhaps from that person, is still in the negative.
Is still what?
Negative?
It is also
yes.
Often very negative is still there.
Yes.
They have to learn to cope with that.
They do.
No.
You wouldn't suggest to them to bring it above duality or to balance it out with a primary perhaps that was in the positive?
Okay, usually these word patterns are quite suppressed, okay, below the level of consciousness. But by having them intensify the word pattern within an umbrella of unconditional love and unconditional forgiveness and just the joy of self-exploration, you know, then as you're looking at that and receiving it on one hand and recreating it with the other, you get that duality. And once a person has learned how to do that, suddenly there's a huge blast of violet flame, and that thing's gone. Boom. And some of you have had that on the table today. It's been
even after the points have gone dead for the point holders.
This is while the points are going dead. Mm-hmm. And they go dead after this usually takes place because it's been totally transmuted.
Ah, right.
So it's during the process of while this is happening.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Doctor.
Right over here. Stan.
I've got a magnetic water conditioner in the stock watering system. Is it beneficial, you think, or not? Water passes through a very strong magnet.
I would say in some cases this has value, because I know that it'll take the corrosion out of pipes. It'll change the energy or the polarity of the toxins that are there. This we know. I don't think it's a cure-all, but a lot of people use a lot of magnets and very effectively.
Yeah, there's special instructions with the magnetic conditioner, saying that any person with a pacemaker to keep well clear of it.
That's right. Okay. Question back here, Doris.
If you have a group of friends who want to help somebody who's ill, but they don't want to do the program themselves, will it still work?
They don't want to do the program, yet they want point holding?
They don't want to take minerals or vitamins, or it won't work.
Bless them and send them on their way. Because body electronics will not work on a person that is not nutritionally prepared.
No, I'm talking about the point holders. Can a group of people who want to do service work on somebody who's sick, hold points without taking all the minerals and vitamins, because say they can't afford it.
They will be so depleted. And they should definitely, if they're going to go and hold points, their whole body sometimes goes completely numb. How many people did we have today where the hands were so numb, the arms were so numb, the bodies were so numb that people didn't know where to put their fingers? They did the best they could, but they're going through that process of unconsciousness that's inside of their own bodies. But so consequently, if they're going to hold points, they should be on a semblance of a program, and to protect themselves, be on a continual kiwi fruit diet until they bring themselves up to the point where they are not going to be affected by a hyperactive unconsciousness or hyperactive gonads. Kyle?
There used to be a time when people wanted to assist that I felt very happy to have the extra help, you know, get a few more points done. We were working on a fellow once, and a friend came along, and you know, he'd sort of prepped her, and I prepped her a bit, and I thought we did a reasonably thorough job, and let her know it was quite difficult, and she really probably wouldn't know what it was like till she'd seen it and done it. And she was there and standing and holding a point, just gently, and she just went numb and passed out. And got, you know, I caught her, and she just held her there until she woke up, and she's in a cold sweat in this sort of semi-shocked condition and extremely nauseated. And that condition persisted even after the point had finished, because it was, you know, sort of hers, so to speak, for her to go through. And you know, the next week I hear that she's found out that she's actually pregnant. And she was with this violent symptomology that came on during the point holding, and that never left for the entire pregnancy. She had 9 months of it. And, you know, that's difficult to predict some of these things, but I would say really I try very, very hard now to scare a person away. Point holder or point holdee, I do my best to scare them away. If they can, you know, endure me trying to scare them away, then I figure they have a chance. But you really have to educate people, and you have to question what you want to put one of your friends through if they aren't quite ready to go through it.
I insist absolutely that people, before I'll even look at them, there are exceptions again to every rule. But normally what I tell them, I say, listen, you listen to these tapes first, and you read this material here, and wait a couple of weeks, and if you still want to come see us, then we'll be happy to talk to you and try to discourage you further. I'm being very forward with you on this. This body electronics is not for everybody. Unfortunately, maybe 90% of your people, they don't want to get well, they don't want to make a sacrifice. They want to continue doing what they've been doing for many, many years, but they want somebody to take care of them at the same time. It doesn't happen that way. We've got to make some sort of an adjustment and change in our lifestyle, and then body electronics will work for us. But most people don't want to do that, and that's fair enough. They have their freedom to do what they want to do, but don't try to sell them something that they're going to resent you afterwards because you've taken away their beefsteak 3 times a day. Now, when I was a young man, if somebody took away my beefsteak 3 times a day, I would have resented them highly. Okay, I understand this, so I'm not going to throw any stones at anybody, because I've been there. That's for tomorrow night for you, Anita. Okay, Rob, Kanan, sir. Rob wants to be called Kanan, and I have trouble going back and forth on that. Sorry. On this situation here tonight, I hope we've covered a few things. I've only covered maybe about a fourth of the questions. We'll try to cover some more tomorrow. Anita will cover a whole lot on the nutritional part tomorrow night. Okay? Anything that we need to discuss before we close? Yes?
There's some 2 friends there, and they're smoking, and I want to do interesting point holding. I said to him, stop smoking first and then come back.
I tell people I won't work with somebody who will smoke unless I feel impressed that I should work with them, and do it very gently. And I reminded of my father, who was one of the most wonderful men that ever walked the planet, and he smoked a half a cigarette every time he puffed up. And I got such a joke out of him because he says, "Son, I've broken down here. I only smoke a half a cigarette at a time now." He still went through his 2 packs of cigarettes a day. You know what I mean? But the thing is I think of my father every time I see somebody who's smoking. I smoked for 10 years. How can I throw rocks at people because they're smoking? I enjoyed blowing smoke rings. Fair enough? And that's the way it is. We all do things for different reasons. And the thing is sometimes some of the most brilliant and wonderful people are still hanging on to a cigarette habit, but they get wonderful results in body electronics. Even smoking. And I could tell you many stories upon people who got over terminal cancer just by doubling up on the program and continuing smoking every day. I mean, I want you to think about that. I'm being serious when I say that. And so there's sometimes it's nice, you know, to be a little bit lenient. And maybe 10 years from now, people might get the idea and start repenting.
Thank you.
Okay? Don't drive your stakes so deep, you'll have to pull them out sometime and kind of be a little bit flexible. But you'll find that some of your greatest wonderful people will have lousy vices. But still, they are wonderful people, and they're gods in embryo, and treat them as such. In 10 lifetimes from now, you may help salvage them.
Okay, well, we'll call it a night now. Thanks, everybody. It's been a wonderful day. 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, back in here in the carry room. Thank you very much.
Enjoy, folks. Have a good night.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Dr. John. And thank you, Anita.
Thank you, Kanan. We got through a lot.
Yeah, honey, did you get the schedule and those poems? Lovely. I can share my water with a rose. Okay. What I wanted to talk to you this morning is about the emotional tone scale, because I had a very, very beautiful thing happen during the point holding yesterday. Yes, we'll put this up on here. Okay, well, I worked with Gabriella yesterday. And if everyone knows, she kept calling me over, Anita, Anita, Anita. And so I went over there and I was working with her. Is she here now, Gabriella? Mm-hmm. Yes? Okay. And you could see through her words, she's had a lot of problems with her breasts, with cysts. And she's had a lot of operations, and she's had a very hard time with it. She hasn't known what to do, and she's gone to the doctor, and every time she's gone to the doctor, of course, they have to operate. And so she's talking about no more operations. That was her word pattern. So I grabbed that word pattern right there. No more operations. We grabbed it. And I had her say that word pattern. Okay? And then you could see, as she kept saying it, you could see the emotional tone scale as she came up scale. At first she wasn't hardly saying it. You know, you could just see the apathy there. She just wasn't saying it that much. She just started saying it. And then as she came up, she worked through all these levels up to the point of enthusiasm, where she was then just laughing about the whole thing. And you could just see that. And Gabrielle, if you want to come up here this morning, do you want to come up and just tell the people what happened?
You better ask her for identification. Gabriella has brown eyes.
Now that's the other thing. Her eyes have gone from a brownish green to green. Can we? Greenish blue. Can we have the mic? Where's the mic? The extra mic? Oh, sorry. Okay, can you tell us what happened?
Yesterday I said to me, I want my sister go away. I say, you must go. I don't want any more operation. I am tired because the doctor tell me you must operation every year. I say, why? I say, I have a 6 year cyst and 2 here. I say, it's much better take care of everything, no? Say, no, every year, 1 a year. I say, no, Dr. Maya, I don't want that. You must every year. I say, baby, you want every year because you want money. No? Is it very poor my English? Sorry. I want to try much better tell you. I say, I want to go in Gold Coast, baby, Dr. Rai, John Rai, the Anita, the wife, helped me. In my mind, when I in Bolongo come here, I say, I must go that trouble because I am very trouble here, my breast. I have a trouble the stomach. The doctor tell me you have the polyp. Yesterday Anita say, no, it's not polyp, it's hernia here.
Hiatal hernia. I looked in her eye and I saw the marking for hiatal hernia. And later on we'll do the hiatal hernia maneuver in the class, in the other class.
One thing here, from a medical point of view, when they do an analysis, or shall we say, checking very carefully using their latest equipment, they can give a very clear diagnostic position. And it's very easy to determine whether or not the polyps indeed do exist. Now, if there are polyps there, and if they did a diagnosis, and the polyps are there, we have found over a period of time the polyps disappear under a good program and with the point holding to restore the nerve supply and circulation to the body, and then the polyps simply are dropped out of the situation and they disappear entirely. But on the other hand, there may indeed be a hiatal hernia, and she has all the symptoms of a hiatal hernia after checking the iris of the eye. I'm going to go over that with you today, and Gabriella has consented to Anita to demonstrate the maneuver that we use for hiatal hernias that was developed up in Ontario, Canada by the Chiropractic Association. I think you'll be very, very happy with this because this has worked miracles literally with thousands and thousands of people who use this particular maneuver. I was taught this up in a naturopathic college years ago, and one of the things that really surprised me was the effectiveness of it, rather than the old method of going in under the rib cage and grabbing this whole stomach area and pulling it down. It's a very painful procedure. This is a very simple, very delightful procedure, and so at the beginning of the class up in the choral room this morning, we're going to demonstrate that. Now this hiatal hernia situation, I believe you have that on tape, don't you? On some of the tapes that we've already worked with, Rob? Those are available.
We do have a video made up just with this hiatus hernia technique on it, which is available upstairs.
Right. Okay, and if you want to get that, to talk to Rob about it, I'm sure he'll, pardon me, Kanan. talk to Kanan about that, or Sakara, and get that particular tape, because you'll save a lot of people a lot of grief on this hiatal hernia until the nerve supply and circulation goes back into the area where the diaphragm becomes strengthened, and it closes around that esophagus where it comes into the stomach area, which is extended upward into the above the diaphragm. Very, very painful for people having that. And you know, they research upchuck, you know, during the night with all that nasty bile and so on, and they can't swallow their food. It gets caught halfway down, and these things are very painful for people. You'll be tickled pink to get that information. We'll demonstrate that this morning. Continue on, Gabriella.
Yes, you have a question first? Okay.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that
Wait. Thanks, Hank.
God bless technology. Anyway, I'd just like to say a mate of mine, his family nor the doctor wanted to tell him he had a cancer, so they told him he had a hiatus hernia. And he died of the cancer, of course. But you got to be careful with this diagnosis.
That's exactly right. And I have told Gabriella that she needs to go on the program fully, because this diagnosis by the doctors probably is correct. However, she could also do the hiatal hernia maneuver to help relieve some of this in here, and then she gets the nutrients in and the enzymes, and this other problem with the polyps will probably go away. So I have cautioned her on that. I've said to her, you must go on the program. She's going to work with Hank, get the whole program, and she's going to work through that. So it's not like, you know, I'm not telling her to take anything else. I'm not telling her she's all cured or anything. You know what I mean? I've told her she's got to go on the nutrients and solve this problem in here. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to say anything else? That's all.
All right. Thank you for Dr. Rai, John Rai. And thank you, Anita, for you helping me yesterday.
Okay. What I do want to say is, a lot of time John comes around to the tables and he says to you, have fun with it, okay? Because sometimes we get stuck into one of these emotions on the emotional tone scale. You know, we can get stuck into the fear, we can get stuck into the anger. And John comes around to the tables and he goes, have fun with it. And that's what happened with Gabriella yesterday. She just got to this point where she just saw the humor in the whole thing. I mean, every time she's gone to the doctor, he tells her another operation. I mean, it's terrible. It's a terrible situation. But she got to a place where she could look at it and just kind of laugh at the whole thing. And that's where that enthusiasm comes in, and that's when the healing comes in. And some of us say, so stuck in the anger, we say so stuck in the fear, or whatever level it is, it could be apathy, that we can't bring ourselves up into that enthusiasm. So just have fun with it. Like John says, he always says, have fun with it. And you may just see it in another light. And this is where the healing then comes into the body.
Gabriella, you come up here, please.
Uh-oh.
I want to point out here something. Gabriella, you come up here. We missed the whole thing. And being a mathematician, you know, I count the number of cysts. I count the number of polyps that are emitted from the emission tubes, and all of these things here we have to look at. But Gabriella, how many cysts yesterday morning did you have in the left breast?
Yesterday morning I have 6 here left. Here 2.
So 6 in the left breast,
yeah,
and 2 in the right breast. And these were regular, good-sized cysts. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, would you please tell everyone upon your exploration activity this morning what the results are?
Yesterday, when I finished my healing, I put my hand here. Strange, I say, some happy to me here. When yesterday night I go in the bed, 11 o'clock, I go in my bedroom, I go in the shower, I put here my hand, my heart. I say, oh my God, I tell my daughter Emma, I say, miracle from me because I disappear everything. I put it here, I look here like that. Oh, it's no more here. I say to my daughter, I am very happy what I do. Anita, John Rai, I say, very happy to me yesterday. It's for me miracle because all the time my daughter in Bolongo, Maya, say operation. I am tired. I say no more operation. Yesterday my mind I put here. I say no more operation, no more operation. I hope no more operation for me. Very happy. Uh, 11 o'clock I ring up in Bolongo my husband and say, you know what to do, Anita, the husband, John Rai? Tell me, I want tell me something. I say miracle for me because I disappear the cyst, everything. My stomach is no polyp, is hernia. Say, I can't believe it. My husband say, I spend a lot of money for you. I am very happy for you and my daughter because Emma have some trouble, my daughter too. I think this week my daughter very good, healthy, no? Some go away, my daughter, no? I enjoy, very happy because I want to come in Gold Coast. I'm a little scared, but now I am very happy. Very happy.
Now, how many cysts are left?
Left 6 here, and 2 here. No more now. No more now.
You understand that? They're gone. And this is wherein, oftentimes when a person has serious problems, and they go through a change of consciousness, the physical body instantly goes through a change to match that change of consciousness. And I think that you all should know this. So I appreciate that. Gabriella, thank you very much, dear.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, where's, I believe his first name is Tom. Tom wants to talk to you this morning on some principles that might be very, very good for you to understand and know. So, Tom, I want you to get this on tape here a bit because this was really important for you. And Tom White, would you please tell your story?
Well, I'll just carry on from where Alex went from yesterday, because we were in a little group together.
Alex, come on up here and just stand by Tom, would you? And who else was with you on the point holding?
My lady friend.
Bring her up here. Where is she? There she is. Now this is the point holding group. I mean, just people. Oh, fair enough? And sometimes people who are just green as gourds when it comes to point holding, they haven't done very much. They're just going on an act of faith, learning how to hold a point and getting jolted and burned out. And then here's the results of it as what Tom has gone through, and I want you to hear his story now.
Well, it still started out and I was wondering what was happening to my body. And Now, is this for real? Or is it going to happen? Or should this not be happening? Well, I let it go. And, well, I was tingling from the toes right through. I saw the light. And I did one thing at a time. And I could feel all this. Things were changing. Things were happening. And, well, we were told that we may have to go for a walk if we have to. Well, I had to. So I left my two partners with a bit of grief because they were still feeling the anger that I was passing by. And, well, I went in and as Alex said, I didn't go and stand up, I had to go and sit down. And, well, then all of a sudden there was this rush, tremendous rush, right down my right arm. Now, I had that severed in 1989, and it was numb until Christmas time this year, and I had some work done on it, but I never even had a pulse in that right arm. But now I have a pulse in that right arm. But I never had it since 1989.
Now, Tom, the pulse was from the artery that had been severed when you decapitated your arm. Is that correct?
This is correct.
It went to it cut clear down through the bone, and the arm was just hanging there by a little bit of flesh. And the artery had been severed, and that had never reconstructed itself. And there's never been a pulse beat in that artery. In the regular pulse beat, when you check the pulse in the wrist, and I checked that pulse in the artery. The artery was very, very much. It was functioning properly.
It is. And well, when I used to go to the doctor, I had to tell them that they can't do a pulse on my right arm because there wasn't any there, and they'd check it, and you're right, but now I've got one.
Now,
but I'll tell you this much too, where it was really numb before, now the numbness is gone. So, and the feeling, well, John was pinching it yesterday afternoon. I didn't want him to keep pinching it because it was hurting like hell.
But everything is now back to normal on that arm, and he has not had the full use of that arm since 1989.
Another thing I want to share with you too, it's nice and warm this morning too, not cold.
Fair enough, folks? And this is just people helping people. And you learn a few simple little tricks here to restore the nerve supply and circulation. And then when you're on the nutritional program as a prerequisite, this is when you get these things reoccurring and the regeneration of tissue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
For those of you who are standing, there are 2 seats up here, please.
2 seats up here.
And
any other seats? Raise your
seats over here.
Seats over there.
Okay. Does anybody want to ask Tom any questions, by the way? Yes, sir.
Which points were held on you?
Wait.
Okay. The question was, which points were held on Tom? And I believe that his mate there was holding the STO point, and Alex was holding on the heart point. That's all. Now normally, we have other points that we use to restore the full nerve supply and circulation to an arm that has been injured severely. But this all happened on just the STO point and the heart point. And I just kind of shake my head and say, well, anything can now cause anything, and this is what's happening to us. Alex.
Could I just say something? I'll make it very
Briefs are like a pair of shorts. You wear them all day.
What I want to say is, remember yesterday I said how glad I was that Tom took me on his journey. And I want to say this quickly. When I went on the table that afternoon, I got nothing, right? I was looking for pain and I never got it. I ain't got nothing. But what I want to say is, I went to bed last night and my fingers were still burning last night. And you know, Tom, I took your pain for gain. You know, thanking you. And I just wanted to say that, how it could be a miracle, or I don't know how to explain it, but I took the pain for Tom whilst I was working on him. And many times I wanted to take my finger off, you know. And I was trying to drive him to hurry up and get it going so I can kill. I got the boss upstairs, no, you're going to know what pain is, even though you're not on the table. And I got it last night, and I didn't even know I thought I'd lost my tip of my thumb, right? So I just wanted to say, hey, I took his pain, and I have gained. I just wanted to say that. When he lost it, I had it.
Thank you, Alex. Okay.
I think the nice thing about Alex is that he lets us know, you know, what he's thinking inside, even though it might not be the right thing. And that's where the resistance is gone. The resistance has gone all out of it. And he just says it, you know, I didn't want to hold that point, you know, I wanted to take my finger off of that. But all the resistance is gone there. And, you know, he's just real. Instead of sitting there and going, thinking you're all loving and, you know, you really want to take your finger off. So all the resistance is gone.
Now, Bill doesn't want to say anything this morning. Is that correct, sir? And as a result, I want him to come up here and tell you what he doesn't want to talk about.
There's a little resistance in that.
I'll take this. Folks, I'm going to tell you the most unusual, probably horrible story that you've heard, or one of them anyway. In 1985, I had a very serious head injury, and as a result, I was placed on very heavy medication. I was receiving daily morphine injections in the morning, in the afternoon, pethidine injections, very, very heavy medication, tryptanol, mind organising drugs, and I've got my wrong glasses on to read this information. I'd like to change, if I may. Can you just talk for a minute? I'd like to give you a complaint, Dr. John. Something that you may like to talk about that you know nothing about, because I haven't spoken about this complaint. But with your nutritional food, one day I chewed through one of your capsules, and it had the most vile taste I have ever encountered. I don't know what it was.
When John first started Body Electronics, we used to have the minerals in liquid, and they were the most vile things you could possibly take. And I remember people used to drink this stuff down. It was like green fog, and then if they farted, forget it.
Basically what happened, about 5,000 people in Chicago were on the program, full tilt. And you could go down Chicago and you find out who your friends were. They did call it green fog.
Okay, folks, I made out a little list, and as Dr. John said, I really didn't wish to talk today. I wanted to give it an extra day just to explain and give myself a chance to come to bear with something that actually happened to me during point holding yesterday. However, I'll go on with the story. For as a result of this head injury, I had daily injections of morphine and pethidine, cortisone, Valium 50 milligrams twice a day, 9 tablets a day of tryptanol, 3 in the morning, 6 at night, Voltaren 60 milligrams per day, Diloxine Co every 4 hours, pure codeine 60 milligrams, Aspalgin, Mesindol, rest of it, Epilin tablets, Panadine Forte. Well, I have some figures here for you actually that I've worked out. This accident happened on the 12th of August 1985. And yesterday was the 7th of November 1997, which means 12 years and 3 months ago it happened. And that's 4,470 days ago. And on an average of 3.5 tablets a day, it's 15,645 painkillers that I've consumed over that period. Now,
did you all absorb that?
That's 15,600 tablets, and that's really being very conservative. Anyway, during point holding yesterday, I found it extremely easy to go into the correct mental state because I was already in pain before I started. And it was a very easy transition to get into the mental state. And I was able to deal with many things, even going back to when I was 7 years of age, when I had polio. And I had very traumatic experiences which I didn't realise were actually still locked away somewhere. And I went through experience after experience after experience from 7 years of age right up to today's time. And I really found it quite easy once you got things flowing. I finished up at one stage just laying there and saying, well, I think I'll have a rest for a moment. And one of my point holders, incidentally, was a lady who is not on the program. She's just a casual observer. I don't know whether she's here, but would it be okay to call her up?
Is that Pat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you come up, please, Pat? Now, during our experience yesterday, over my lifetime, I'm an inventor, and unfortunately I'd made some electrical apparatus, and I had received various electrical shocks from these, which Pat unfortunately seems to know quite a lot about. And I think I'll just put you on.
Oh dear.
By the way, Pat, excuse me. Turn around for me. Turn around the other way.
Yes.
What in the world happened to the hair in the back of your head? You had white hair when you came in.
Yep. And it's gone black.
It's gone black back there. Do you all see that? or darkened anyway.
Yep.
And I just want you to see that. You don't see that every day.
Right.
And you see it once and that's it. So enjoy it now, because it, from here on...
I'm
if
just
she keeps...
hoping the front will go now.
Fair enough? Okay.
Okay. Well, Bill was going through this experience with electric shock, and wow, it started on my fingers and went right through both arms, and you've got no idea I was shaking like that with it. Right?
Would you call that a revolting experience?
Yes, I do. You could just think, you could just feel it was coming out of his body, and it was going right up my arms. So, and he done very well.
Anyway, folks, over this period of time, I've had quite a lot of treatment. I was placed on sickness benefits. At one stage I was placed on an invalid pension. I've had chiropractic visits, remedial massage, acupuncture, foot reflexology, osteopathic treatment, 2 separate psychologists, hypnotherapy, deep massage therapy, infrared treatment, and I think just about any other treatment that's available. I've had it, and nothing worked until yesterday. And last night was my first night that I've found that I've had a comfortable sleep, and I did not have to have any painkillers at all. So the other thing is that my assistant that was coming around, Carol, thought I was reliving a stroke experience, and I wasn't. I was just reliving the effects of the accident, which were actually quite horrific to me because it was such a silly little thing to happen. I placed no value on it at all at the time when it happened, and I did not start to get effects from the accident for 9 days. And then just suddenly this terrible noise started up in the head, and I collapsed, and I've been hospitalised about 5 times where they've said, well, we don't know what's wrong with you. They've given me CAT scans and all sorts of treatment, and just everyone threw their hands up in the air and said, well, we just don't know what's wrong with you at all. We can't put our finger on it. But yesterday, during point holding, I relived that accident. It was very, very easy to relive it because it's been on my mind for so long. And once I went through the experience of reliving that accident, I could feel right down through all the vertebrae in my neck. I don't know the actual correct terminology for the vertebrae, but at one stage it was so bad, the pain, that I even had nerves cut in the top of the spine. I had nerves cut in the bottom of the spine. It did absolutely nothing, and I can tell you that those operations I had were absolutely horrific because I had to lay face down on a table just with a local anaesthetic while they cut through the nerves below the anaesthetic, and it was really quite nauseating, and I was crook for nearly a week afterwards. However, all those things are now far behind me, and I'd like to say thanks very much to Dr. John, and thank you very much, Dr. Anita, and you really did get me up too early. I was going to have another night without pain before I was going to say anything.
But by golly, he was busting at the seams. We had to give him an outlet. Thank you, Bill, very much, sir.
Something. Yes, do you have a question?
Thank you. You're talking about people changing hair. Now look at Alex, he's back, his hair. I said, it's not imaginary. His hair on the black
on the back is dark.
Alex,
and on
would
here.
you come up here and show us your
The
back?
same it is might, Mr. Divine. I said, your hair is darker too, and he won't believe me.
I can't see the back.
Here. This is, and here it's all getting dark grey. It was white, the hair, and it's getting dark hair in between. And he won't believe me. So as Mr. Divine, his mate in his room. He has the same thing. It's getting all dark here and here. Where is he? Come up, dear. I tell him that and he won't believe me. Look at this. Look at this patch here in the back. This patch in the back here.
God, you're an organizer, aren't you?
All his hair is in the darker than I met him before, and that's true. I feel it. Thank you.
I think. Hang on there. Give me a go. I tell you, it's pretty difficult to get in front of this fella. I think I can say thanks to Gabriella for this. I was holding the points in the back of Gabriella's neck yesterday, and I know she had a fantastic experience, and I felt not very much at all. And now I realise how powerful it's been for Gabriella, and I find now that, at least, though I didn't feel a lot yesterday, except very, very numb fingers at the end of it all, my hair's changing colour, so I'm told.
I want to give you one more laugh. I told Sir John this morning, if you'd all been flies in the wall in our room last night, Lionel and I, we had the greatest laugh of all. It went on for nearly an hour, and I tried to share it with Sir John. If you'd looked in, I says, hey, have a look at my hair. You talk about women there and got to look in. And we're going there, he's looking through my hair, and we're going, and I says, and I'm getting down, and I says, sit down on the edge of it, and I'm going through the hair, and I says, look, it's all going through the, and then we went into the toilet, and we were looking, we were going like that. I think laughter goes a long way. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Kyle, yes.
I want to tell you about an occupational hazard with my father. I put him on a program a few years ago, and he used to be a rally car driver, stock car driver, you know, got paid for crashing cars into each other. And he's broken his neck and damaged many different parts of his body over the years. And I said, you know, if you go on this program, you're going to go through hell probably for at least 5 years. And I'm sure you're not going to want me as a son somewhere in the middle of that. And he used to have this, you know, very little hair on his head, and just the bit at the back was all white. And gradually over time it started to fill in, go grey, and then go back to dark brown, you know, and he wouldn't believe me. You know, and Mum told him, and he didn't believe her. And one day he's down in his mechanic shop, you know, lifting truck tires in his late 60s. And this guy walks in, he says, "Oh, Bert, you dyed your hair." He said, "No, what are you talking about?" He said, "Your hair, it's all dark brown at the back. It used to be white. What's up with you?" You been to one of those clinics? So it's gradually been creeping its way around the front over the last 18 months. And hair has been sprouting up where there was absolutely no hair before. And some of it's completely black, and some of them are still white, but they're creeping their way forward. And they've come all the way forward now to the anterior hairline. There's sparse hair all the way forward. And then the beard started to go dark around the edges. And just recently, he woke up with this big swollen hand, and he's got these dark areas in his mustache now. He has a dark area right here through what was a white mustache and beard, and a dark area right here. You know, like one of those little Chinese beards, beautiful ones. You know, he's got these little dark, looks very stylish, you know. And at the same time as this, he's got this big hand swollen up, you know, and his cranial bones keep shifting, and his hair keeps getting darker, and the wrinkles in his face keep disappearing. But he's convinced he's getting worse because because his hand is like a football at the moment, and he's only had about 4 or 5 memories on that, and he still hasn't gotten through it. So it's just difficult to convince some people.
Kyle, did you ask him this morning about his athletic injury?
I haven't talked to him yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay, something I wanted to point out here. We've heard Gabriella say the word miracle. And I think you can see from the people that came up that we can be in all conditions. We can be taking, you know, the whole chemist shop. You know, we can come from all kinds of backgrounds, and yet we can get the results. We get the miracle when we apply the law. And this happens in all cases. When you apply the laws are what we are teaching you. When you apply the law, you get the result. And this happens with everything. For instance, electricity. Before they discovered electricity, it was something fantastic to believe that you could turn on a switch and have light in the room. Now it's a normal thing. Well, as you learn these things, they may seem fantastic to you at the moment. It may seem fantastic to you today that a man who has taken so many drugs could have no back pain last night. Or it may seem fantastic to you that Gabriella has no cysts. But yet, if you apply the law, you get the result. And this is in all the higher teachings, and it even goes down to the basics. It applies to physical laws, mental laws, and spiritual laws.
This is what Anita has said here is exceedingly important. The physical body operates according to physical laws. And you have to obey those physical laws in order to help to perfect the physical body, which is the temple of God. Now, if the temple of God is defiled in any way, then the Spirit of God is incapable of living in that temple of God. Now, you can deceive yourself any way that you want to by thinking, well, we don't need to have a perfect physical body. But we do have the responsibility of caring for it and making it as perfect as we possibly know how to do so, that it might become a proper vehicle for the ability to receive the energies, the experiences, the stimulations from the environment around, that we may develop our yin, our yin qualities, our female qualities of receptivity. Every single cell of the physical body has within it a powerhouse inside of what we call the mitochondria of the cells. When we understand the full activity of the function of the cells, we will understand that if we violate certain basic laws, then the cells begin to calcify to a certain pattern wherein the melanin protein complex, which is a stimulus response reactive mechanism that is in every single cell of the body. This then takes over to where, when a stimulus comes in from the environment, a certain reactive pattern takes place which deprives us of our free agency. Because we do not have free agency as long as we're dominated by reactive patterns. Now, when we are able to remove that melanin protein complex from the cells of the body, We start this with a high degree of natural foods, like chlorophyll, which is very high in your magnesium, because magnesium is the central element in chlorophyll. When you take tremendous amounts of animal products, such as milk and cheese and so on, like I have been on for many years, like other people have been on for many years, you develop a 10-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ratio of calcium to magnesium within the body. And this calcifies the cells to some degree, wherein we are limited in our ability to develop our spirituality because we're incapable of receiving the energies from the environment around us. Which then, if we cannot receive, we cannot give. Because we have to learn to receive first before we can give. It's like a pitcher of water here. This pitcher of water, I can't pour any water out of it unless I pour water in first. The physical body is the same way. If we cannot receive, then we cannot give out. If we can't yin, we can't yang. Fair enough. Now, the same thing, I mean, this is a true principle. You can't give out something that you're not capable of receiving. So, when we eliminate the calcium at a 10-to-1 or a 6-to-1 ratio and start taking magnesium in a very high ratio, where the desired ratio should be 2 magnesium for every 1 of calcium, then the calcium pump begins to operate at the cellular level, and you start to rid the body of this calcification, which is inherently intertwined with this melanin protein complex. And this melanin protein complex begins to break up, and a person goes into what we call the healing crisis, which is explained in book 2 of the Logic and Sequence series. Okay? That's called the second book. I think, I don't know, is Sakara here? No? Okay, book 2 of the Logic and Sequence series is the healing crisis. And after you finish book 1, which is the basic book to get under your belt, it's like stirring through mud for a while until you're able to understand it. And after a bit of point holding, you will understand it, and then it's just a simple thing. Oh, yes. And then book 2 becomes very simple to understand because you've been there, you've done that. But the thing is here, at the level of the cell, this is where it all begins. And it all begins with proper nutrition, with lots of greens, lots of chlorophyll, which hasn't been destroyed by heat. Fair enough? Okay. Now, when this melanin protein complex, I didn't intend to get into this, but this has to be said. Within every cell of the body, there are a varying number of mitochondria. Within the mitochondria, there is DNA material. And the DNA material will take the position of what we call a monopole. Now, if you have, for example, in a crystalline structure, if you studied anything about mineralogy, you will know and understand that the physical characteristics of every beautiful gemstone every gemstone will be different because of its pattern of the matrix of the elements that are laid down in a certain pattern, dependent upon 3 different interacting axes. Now the axes will cause each particular stone, precious or semi-precious, to have a certain type of I'll say qualities. They'll have certain qualities which are unique to that particular crystal. But the crystals will have these axes. Some, like lead or salt, will have the axes perpendicular to one another. And it's what we call a triple axis. Now within the cells are also this triple axis within the mitochondria. We have 3 monopoles. It's like an kind of an electromagnetic intertwining with the DNA molecule, the structure of the DNA molecule. Now what definitely happens here is if this is crystallized, then all you are then at that point, at that cell level, is a stimulus response mechanism. The stimulus comes in, the response is automatic. No thinking, no free agency. Now, as we eliminate this melanin protein complex, first of all, you free up one particular monopole. At that time, you have, shall we say, one-dimensional type thinking. You have the concept of looking at right or wrong, off or on, black or white. And many people are in this type of thinking. They can only think in terms of black or white. If it's not good, then it's bad. If it's not right, then it's wrong type of thing. And there's no gradient between the two, because they cannot think in gradients. All they can think of is good or bad, black or white. And you'll meet many, many people as you're helping other people who are locked in to this type of thinking. And there is no equivocation here. There's no compromise. There's no gradient. They can't think in terms of anything else other than everything is black or white or good or bad. That is one-dimensional thinking. This is the level of unconsciousness, really, and this is where the majority of people are. This is where we are. You put me on a table and I'll go through lots of unconsciousness, and I'll go to sleep and I'll go through stuff, and you find all of us, when we have enough point holding, we'll go through different stages of unconsciousness because of all the traumas we've had, the accidents we've had, the anesthetics we've had, and so on. We go through all this until after a while, after a few years, we don't have that in our system anymore. Now, but the first level is the off and on, right or wrong, good or bad, or one-dimensional thinking. Now, let's look at duality. Okay, right or wrong. Shakespeare says it this way: things are neither good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. Fair enough? Okay. We see, as mentioned yesterday, a coin has two sides. But to have a complete coin, you have to have two sides. In the physical universe, everything that is here is based upon duality. And you have your positive, you have your negative. In every single aspect of this physical universe of which we are part is based upon duality. You can't get around it. You stop and look at every single physical object. You look at everything that is moving or not moving. You look at inertia, or you look at any form of motion, and it's all going to be based upon duality. Okay, so in the physical universe, you have duality. This is where we are. So you take the duality here, which is one-dimensional, and you put yourself above the duality, and you form a triangle, which becomes two-dimensional. And this is when the second monopole is slowly activated, like two antennas now are moving, not three, but two. And you're thinking in two dimensions now, and you're able to begin to embrace duality, because you can see from an external point of view that right and wrong are both inherent within the action or the physical object or the process that is transpiring around you in the environment. Fair enough? Okay, so much for that. We get the second monopole operating as the crystallization in the cell begins to break down. Then, if we're lucky, we're able to begin to think in terms of three dimensions. But we cannot visualize in three dimensions until we can start breaking down that melanin protein complex. Now, there's been a lot of research done on melanin, call it. A lot of research has been done on this. And there's a lot of writing up. You can get off the internet. You can get just reams of information on the melanin protein complex. So I'm not going to get into that here, but I'm going to get into the theory behind it. Once you can take a look at a triangle, which is two-dimensional thinking, and put it into the form of a pyramid with a triangular base, so to speak, you're dealing now with what they call a three-dimensional, third-dimensional activity. Hologramic. You're dealing now with a hologram, with 3 dimensions. And here is wherein you are able now to look at a hologram. You can see time and space, color, form in 3 dimensions in your mind, and you develop the capacity to visualize. It took me many, many years to learn how to visualize. I struggled with it because I couldn't. I was a mathematician. I could handle mathematics because it's conceptual. It's dealing with level 5. Honey, turn that on there if you would. It's level 5, as you're looking down here, is a very high level. It's the level of general memory. It's where the engineers, the mathematicians, these are very high levels. Unconsciousness is at the bottom. You can't think when you're at unconsciousness. At apathy, you don't care if you think. Okay? You got that there? At apathy, you just don't care if you think. But then when you come up to the level 5, or the pancreatic platitude level, or what we call the pancreas adrenal level, the grief level, okay? This affects the pancreas. Here is where we begin to think in terms of general memory. But general memory is where we can talk about it, conceptualizing about it, but we have no specific memory. We have no ability to visualize at this point in time. None. But we can talk about things. Talk about things. When we remember, we talk about that which we remember. But we do not experience it on the mental level. Now, when you get into book 1 of the Logic and Sequence series, the most important thing you can learn to understand is that until man can experience on the mental level that which exists on the physical, he will be bound to the physical. Let me repeat that. Until man can experience on the mental level that which exists on the physical level, he will be bound to the physical. And if we haven't learned anything else in this class yesterday, by having the people go through the traumas and re-experience them as if it's happening right now in the ever-present now, the present fades out and you're fully immersed in the trauma. You follow me on this? It's exceedingly important you understand this. They're immersed in the trauma. They are re-experiencing in the ever-present now that which happened 20, 40, 60 years ago. And they're experiencing that hologramic experience. And this is what we have to come to. The pain is the capstone to the memory. And keep that forever in your mind. And the pain is up there at level 2. And then when you get through that pain, you come up to your creative ability at the yang level, so to speak, and you can recreate because you have no resistance to the pattern of activity that you have been resisting for centuries. Okay, the resistance is now gone, and you recreate that on the mental level. At that time, the melanin protein complex disappears in the physical body, and in the eye itself, you'll see the brown pigmentation moving out. And the perfect pattern begins to emerge, which is the pattern of a blue eye. And I do not care what nationality a person is, what race they are. I care less. Because in every single case of the people we have worked with, we worked with the Koreans down in Los Angeles. We worked with the Chinese people in LA and in Hawaii. We've worked with the Polynesian people for years. We've worked with the black people for years in Chicago and elsewhere where the black people have come in to have their training. And gradually over a period of time, the black-brown eyes. There's even hope for the Polish people. Anita used to have black-brown eyes. You can come up and take a deep look in her eyes, and you can see that they're turning very, very rapidly now, very green, with a tiny bit of brown left around the center.
And there are some strips of blue. For some reason, my eye is healing in segments. And it's a very strange way of healing, but it's healing in strips. And there's actually a couple strips in there that are blue. And then there's somewhat brown-green, some in green, and somewhat brown in the middle.
But now as this melanin protein complex starts to break up then, at the cellular level, you'll see the changes in pigmentation not only in the iris of the eye, but in the skin. Now a lot of people don't like to talk about that. Now, immediately when you talk about racial differences, everyone gets their dander up. Because you have black is beautiful on one hand over here, and then you have white is perfection over here on the other hand. And when everything at this point in time is perfect divine order. Are you hearing me? So, one of the greatest challenges everyone will have, and I put this to you now, never allow the spirit of criticism to enter into your heart toward any other human being because they're different from you. Never allow the spirit of condemnation or judgment to enter into your heart toward any other living human being. Just say everything simply is perfect divine order. And we learn to encompass rather than divide. We learn to unify rather than to create divisions. Fair enough? Who was with me and Anita up in Genazzano 2 years ago? Okay. Only one person?
Back there, John.
There's Heather.
Heather was back there.
Heather, you were there.
Heather and Gloria? Is that Gloria back there?
And
oh,
Carol was there.
Carol.
Okay. Now, how many of you remember this gentleman by the name of Nimrod Nkomo? He was purple-black from Central Africa, actually from Tanzania. And he came with a number of people from that area, from Tanzania, to the seminars. And they're having point holdings there in Dar es Salaam there in Tanzania right now, and getting quite a group of people together. Now, you correct me if I make an error or add to it, you folks, if you would. If I make one mistake on this, I don't want that to go on the tape without correction. But Nkomo had a problem with his voice box that goes back 30 years, where when he spoke he had to force the air out of his voice like this, and he couldn't talk loudly because he had this operation on his vocal cords, and they wouldn't function properly. He went through a healing crisis and re-experienced this operation on his vocal cords with the regeneration of his vocal cords. And at the end of the seminar, he sang the national anthem of Tanzania with a very, very beautiful, lusty voice. Just a beautiful voice.
It's on the tape.
And what happened also at that time was his whole body burned and burned and burned as his vocal cords regenerated from this operation. Now, Kyle, speak to us here. You were there. Heather was there. Carol was there. Gloria was there. Okay. What happened to his skin color, sir?
Well, I didn't see him at the beginning, but when I saw him, he had no problem with his voice. I remember that, because I saw him a couple of days before he left, when I got there. And he had, he wasn't a purple-black skin color anymore. Purple-black skin color is just as dark as it gets, I think. I've never seen anything that's so dark. And he was really, he was, in the horse industry we call him a bay. But I remember Esther, and I saw her when she was dark, and I saw her when this whole patch of skin on her went to this sort of medium tan color. And I saw the pictures of her iris that were perfectly black. Just a black iris. You can't see anything in a black iris. You have to look in the sclera because you just can't see anything. And she had the pictures of her iris, so, one of the few records I've seen, just stage by stage, and just the black gradually dissolves away and brown comes in around the outside, and that moves in towards the middle, and you have black in the middle and then brown, and then gradually the green comes in, and then you have black in the middle and then brown and then green, and then you have blue coming in, and gradually it just creeps its way through the iris. And she had the pictures stage by stage. She showed them to me. And, you can't argue with some things after a while.
I remember the people from the Cameroons, where Esther is from, they prided themselves in having a sway back with a little rear end sticking out. You've seen these pictures of the people, you know, they have the sway back and then they have this rear end sticking out there. Well, even though they have the sway back, there's pain in that lower back. So I went to work on that with my elbow in that lower back area where she has some problems. And she burned and burned and burned and burned and burned and burned, and then her back straightened out. Now, at that time, there were tremendous changes in skin color after she burned. Just like Nimrod, I didn't see Nimrod change because other people were holding points, and we had about 100 and some people there. We couldn't keep track of everybody, really, except all the different people who were there were trained, and they were keeping track of one another, and we just did the best we could to keep on top of everything. And you don't see everything. You can't keep on top of everything. But Nimrod changed color, and he definitely went from purple-black to, I would call, dark Polynesian. That's how I would describe it. How would you describe it, sir?
He'll pass for a Maori by now, I'd say.
Pardon me?
I think he'll pass for a Maori now, I'd say.
Well, he would pass for a Maori, yeah. I think he would.
I used to pass for a Maori, but I've been rejected from the group now.
No, you should have known Kyle 4 years ago from Byron Bay, 5 years ago now. He was quite dark. So Kyle is the pigmentation is changing on Kyle also.
Yeah, I used to have black eyes, and I used to have these patches of lighter sort of color of tan coming in over this quite dark brown skin. And I used to be very embarrassed about it. It all happened while I was busy burning with some Chinese guys with different disciplines, and my skin started to flake off, and I started to go this light color. And I thought this was interesting, and I came to Body Electronics and found that was all right, and I was pleased about that. And gradually it just I molted sort of, and it was all flaky for several years gradually, and then I lost a whole layer. So now I'm a few shades lighter, and that's actually happened a couple of times. Yeah.
Now this is exceedingly important what we're talking about, because this is all melanin protein complex. And when you have transmuted this reactive mechanisms which bind us to cultural activity, to a certain way of mindset, to a certain way of conditioning, to where we respond to this conditioning over and over again, then when this breaks down, then the person, the spirit in that body who's immortal, begins to have the freedom within that particular body to have greater and greater ability to exercise the free agency, to where they can now receive the stimuli at the cellular level from the external stimulus from the universe around us, the influences of the stars, the influences of the sun, the influences of the moon, the influences of every single person that is around us, and we develop our awareness to where we're dancing in a whole spectrum of light. Can I use that expression? We're not numb to what is going on around us. We're dancing to an eternal spectrum of light, the interaction of energies, and we are becoming then more and more aware of those energies as we develop our awareness. And then we learn to act appropriately in response to those energies in the ever-present now, because we can now have the ability to visualize and to create and to move in the areas of visualization, because we're no longer resisting the activities of life around us. The resistances are gone. Some people say we're going with the flow. Now, a lot of people are into yin energy, of receiving the energy and just feeling the energy. Okay, and that's as far as they go in their development. Now, what are we going to do as intelligent beings after we have received the energy? We learn to act appropriately, to bring about constructive activity within the environment of which we are a part. You can't do that unless you are aware and can receive the energies around us. And when we break up that crystallization at the cell level, and that's where it all begins, and get those monopoles so they can just like a little like a television antenna, they become flexible. They're no longer crystallized, and they can adjust to any incoming influence instantly and transmit that energy to the consciousness that occupies the body. The person then becomes exceedingly aware of every energy around them. Are you with me on this? You're going to have to grasp that concept over and over and think about it. And then suddenly you'll be on the table and you're there doing it. And then you understand, I understand. Because I'm transmuting. I'm now creating this over here which I have received. Poof, gone. And a big burst of violet flame, which is the law of light. And that transmutes all things and brings all things back to memory so that we can transmute it and let go of that forever. And at that point of time, you understand the law of grace as taught by Jesus. By grace are ye saved. Grace is the law of light that was not taught by Jesus in his day because people could not comprehend it. That was taught by Saint Germain with the concept of the violet flame. That is the law of grace because it transmutes all of our karmic considerations that hold us in bondage and hold us in that law of cause and effect. And when that is totally removed from our consciousness, our karmic patterns are released and we're no longer bound to that eternal destiny of one eternal round after another, after another, after another, and we can free ourselves and move into the ascensional process. Now, you will understand that you are already on that ascensional process when the hair begins to change color and the skin begins to recover its youthful beauty. My goodness, folks, we're on to something here that when you understand that which has been given to us and understand that you're on the road to real, true enlightenment and consciousness change. I want to talk about consciousness change now because this is confusing to many people. What is consciousness change? Here is where you take the physical body and perfect it. You go up the scale, and this will answer about 10 questions I have here. You come up the scale and you go through the burning, searing pain of the Kundalini fire. That's the pain level at level 2. Thank you. At level 2 you've got pain. Now when we get to that pain level, that transmutes every single negative emotion below that. And you no longer have to go in that segment, shall we say, of that which we have transmuted. You don't have to go through that again. You've done it. You've transmuted the whole lot. You don't have to go through the anger. The anger's gone. The fear is gone. The grief is gone. The apathy is gone, etc. Ad nauseum. It's all gone. Poof. And all you have to do is then rise above the pain and embrace it with enthusiasm. I'm not saying you're out here, doing the pom-pom routine, but the enthusiasm is a quiet, blissful, joyous state. And say, my, how delightful. And you sit there with a joy in your heart for being alive, and you have that gentle enthusiasm where you just simply sit and chuckle at things. And you just simply sit and chuckle and just say everything is perfect divine order. There are no mistakes. It's simply an outer manifestation of the inner consciousness of man. That's all it is. And we're playing this eternal dance of life, interchanging with non-resistance with all of the energies that are coming around us and not saying, well, it ought to be this way, it should be this way, if people were intelligent, it could be this way. We let go of all that and say, my, whatever. And when you take the position, whatever, you no longer have that spirit of resistance. You just say, whatever, how delightful. We take what's coming and then we do what we can to set order in it and bring joy and happiness. And we just laugh and chuckle. And people say, well, how can you be so damn serious? And you just sit and chuckle at what they say. Because this is not a funeral dirge, folks. Life is that man might have joy and happiness and delight. But the darkness of the human mind says we have to resist. We have to fight this and we have to fight that. We can't let this happen and we can't let that happen. Guess what? It's going to happen whether we like it or not. So let's just take the energy that is there, and in the Oriental style of Jiu-Jitsu, you take the energy which is there and transmute that energy and utilize that for a higher purpose. Fair enough? Now, back to the pain level at level 2. Pain is the capstone to memory. And when you get through that pain level, as many of you did yesterday on the table, all of a sudden the memories start flowing, and you go back and you're capable of re-experiencing the traumas that have held you in bondage of pain for a long time. Bill, you understand that? Is that correct, sir?
It certainly is.
You've been there, you've done that. And this is the understanding that you now have. Many of you have already done that because you've gone back through the falls down the stairs. You've gone down where you slipped and backed into an angle iron, you know, and messed your back up, and suddenly the pain is gone. After you've done what? After you have re-experienced the trauma, just like it happened in the ever-present now. And you're doing it right now, because what happened 20 years ago is right here and now with us, because the resistance that we've had to that event, we're holding here. You got that? And so we go through the pain, we release it, and then we smile and chuckle and say, my, how delightful, and we no longer say how bad this is. I'm going to go to the extreme that some of you ladies who have had some serious problems with, and some of you men have had serious problems. I want you to listen carefully. One lady had gone through child abuse. Her father abused her sexually for years. And she came to Body Electronics thinking this would help her. And she felt miserable about how her entire life has been totally destroyed because of child abuse as a girl. What I told her was this. I said, now when you can get through the resistance to the experience and see the perfect divine order in what's transpiring, you'll understand the karmic relationship here, because what you have put out into the environment you are now reaping. Well, I've never done anything to anybody. Now, we continued working with her, and her development came where she went further and further and further into full memory of her past life, this life. Back to childhood, back into the birth canal, back into prenatal. And one day, all of a sudden, her past life opened up before her, where in her past life she was a man, and she remembered that as a man, she or he had a daughter who was, at that time, her father, and she abused her daughter, or his daughter, or... but as being a man in the prior lifetime, she abused the daughter, and the daughter then in this lifetime became her father. And this is how our resistances and traumas bring back the things again over and over again into this life, and we think of the injustice of it all. I'm going to tell you this sincerely. There is no injustice. There is nothing that happens to man that happens without some causation factors. It is our job then to find out what did we do to bring this about on ourselves and take responsibility for it. And eventually we'll find out, and as she found out, and she just sat there and laughed and laughed and laughed, and she lost all resistance to her father. She took responsibility for screwing things up in the past life, and she went to her father in this life, and the two have been very, very wonderful and loving, and now they have a father-daughter relationship in this lifetime, rather than all this hatred, revenge, resistance, and whatnot. Now, you take and look at all these people that go through counseling, and what I have seen by a lot of the counselors, the people are justified in their anger toward what has been done to them. Is this on tape, sir? Ian? It has to be on tape. And these counselors are doing people a tremendous disservice because they're not bringing out the karmic consequences of past actions, which in this lifetime they are now reaping. They're not putting the responsibility on the individual as having an outer creation of that which at one time, through their series of resistant patterns they have created. Because what we do to other people in this lifetime, we are as sure as God lives. We will reap that benefit, and there's no way to avoid it. And that is why if we can commit ourselves at this point of time to follow the path of harmlessness and never knowingly do harm to any human being, and live a lifetime of integrity as much as is humanly possible within the parameters of our resistant patterns. And if we screw up here and there, we say, oh, I'm still very delightfully human, and we do what we can to make things right. Fair enough. Bring peace, bring harmony, and we're still going to make a load of mistakes through our ineptness, okay? And I think that's only fair. But when we can forgive people for their ineptness, then we leave the vacuum open for people to forgive us for our ineptness, for our humanness. Fair enough? You see what I'm saying here? We create a vacuum when we can unconditionally forgive and unconditionally love. Now, this is wherein all of our resistances are here and now, in this physical body, at the cellular level, and they're putting out 24 hours a day, as Anita had mentioned day before yesterday morning, the concept that we're putting out 24 hours a day the resistance patterns that are built within our structures. And we draw unto ourselves the very thing that we need to experience because our resistances are holding it there. Whether it be a neck pain or a back pain or a head pain or an ear pain. Now when we can let that go completely, absolutely completely, all these resistant patterns, then we start moving toward that human creation goes right into the void because we make it okay that things are not okay. We get rid of the resistance to the resistance first. We get rid of the resistance to the resistance. And we make things, we say it's okay that things are not okay. And then we go to the not okay and we start dealing with that and finding out where our resistant patterns are and take individual responsibility for that. Anita wants to talk to you.
Well, I have prayed on this a lot because I do a lot of decree work. And it's important that when you're decreeing, that you focus on how you can love more in your decrees, not on decreeing for another person, not on decreeing not to decree that situations be other than what they are, but to decree and to accept things as they are, but yet at the same time to decree how you can be more of value to everyone around you. And when you start focusing on how you can love, how you can put out more love to others around you, you'll see your life just becomes magic, because you're working on what you're supposed to be doing. We're not so much focusing on what your neighbor is doing or what your relative is doing, but what you are supposed to be doing. And this also takes a lot of the resistance out.
Questions? Yes, sir.
Yes. Can I have Well, to look at me, you wouldn't think I was a devil's advocate, would you? Do you all know who a devil's advocate is? It's somebody who's appointed by the church to prove that a candidate for sainthood isn't worthy. So, John, what I would like to say...
I'll drink to that.
Yes. A couple of points here. Firstly, let us look at what John said from a different perspective. Firstly, let us assume that there's a spirit that comes into a body And it comes into that body for experiences. Why is this man taking our experiences and going poof with them and getting rid of them on a table? Because I want my experiences. I'm taking them back to my cosmic library in the sky because I've earned them. So if I believe, I have a belief pattern that says these are experiences, something I want, then I really don't have to worry about the trauma. And so we come back then, that when I go to my cosmic library and I say, look, I'm coming back again, I don't really come back as a one-to-one correspondence with who I was before, because I can select things from the library. Although I might appear to be, your uncle, or maybe cousin Fred to you, and to somebody else the Apostle Peter. It's because I've taken some of their energy, some of their memory, and it's come with my spirit down. And of course, looking at reincarnation, of course, we come to the law of karma. God help us, law or nothing. It is a control mechanism. It's a belief pattern. It's in the same league as, unless you are saved, brothers, you're hell and damnation. There'll be a gnashing of teeth, and you'll go to hell. Same sort of thing. Oh, praise be to God, Paddy. If I commit another mortal sin, the Mother Church won't have me, and I'll rot into bloody hot place. And exactly the same sort of thing. Unless you do what the organisation says, you'll come back as a pig, or a rat, or even worse, a Protestant. And so there, John, I as a devil's advocate put these points to you because they are not against body electronics. You can do body electronics with these beliefs.
I can't disagree with you one bit, sir. But I'll say this much. I'm sure that with this current pattern of belief systems and the way you express yourself, that many people have condemned you to hell over and over again. But I'll say this also, that his attitude is, well, if this man-made organization of condemnation, if that's heaven, he wants no part of it. And if he's going to go to hell, he'll make damn sure that it's going to be a heaven when he's done with it. And that's been my attitude. Because I went through this a bit here one time, when you go against convention, so to speak, okay? I thought I was going to go to hell for sure. Then I looked at that. That's quite a little challenge. And I said, by golly, if I go to hell, that's perfectly all right, because by the time I'm done with it, it's going to be a heaven. And you and I can work together on that. Fair enough, sir? Think about that. Because this is our hell right here. And I came to that realization one time, there is nothing other than our own heaven and our own hell right here and now. It's nothing in the future. That is a projection of the now. It's nothing in the past. That is what we have resisted and so on. But I'll promise you this, that if you study very carefully, very, very carefully, now is the only thing that there is. This is our heaven and this is our hell. And how the future then expands for us will be how we conduct ourselves in the now, either according to correct principles, which would be according to divine law or universal law, call it what you like. If we go against that universal law, we create a hell for ourselves, because we have to, then we're tied into the law of karma. Because that which we have sowed, we are then bound to reap. Until we can, by the grace of God, if we can use the word grace, which is the violet flame, according to the teachings now, that violet flame will actually bring all things back to memory so that we can transmute that and completely eliminate that, so we're no longer bound by it. And the laws of karma no longer have its painstakingly grinding it out hold on us to where we have to repeat things over and over and over again until we start understanding we don't have to do that anymore. Now, I'm so grateful for this knowledge, because it has literally freed my soul of the chains of darkness, death, and despair, which actually disparages every single good human being who is into a conventional mold of believing that you have to go through a man in order to come to a oneness with a God which is within every one of us already. You understand that? God is in each of us. Now, the kingdom of God is within you. It's not low here, low there. The kingdom of God is right here and now in each one of us, and we have the right to grab a hold of that and go with it.
Oh, okay, I've got this one. What you said about experience in the first part of it, I believe all experience is to teach us how to love more. And once you get that message, once you learn how to love more, then you don't need to go into your library and pull that experience out anymore. Because, first of all, you're not resisting that experience anymore, so it won't come to you anymore. And if it does come to you, you've learned to love in it, so it'll just pass through and you won't need to go back and find out what you had to do. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't necessarily agree with it.
Okay.
But just a point that I'd add following John. We're really coming from the same direction in that if you take a spirit, it in fact has a mandate from God to be there. And so it's there to do a job. And so your spirit is with God by its very nature. And sometimes the physical body might lose the plot a little bit, but the spirit is always with God. Because that's where it comes from.
Come up here, sir.
I've always just learnt in the last probably 18 months that nothing in the universe can hurt us unless we give it the power to do so. And what I believe John is teaching here, and Anita, is some very powerful belief systems. Now, if we take the belief systems that we have every day, and some of us have some belief systems we don't even know we've got. And what we're doing here is uncovering those belief systems. Now, I've been and done some very powerful courses. There's a lady here who's a teacher of very powerful courses. And we deal with just completely belief systems. And we thought that we still believe that we have one of the most powerful courses in the world, which is called the Avatar course. And they just deal completely with your belief systems. However, we spoke about this in the last 2 nights. We do believe now that this is probably a better system for uncovering those beliefs, because a belief you can't see, you've got to experience. But this course here gives you the physical, you can see something's happened, so then people can say, well, if I can see something's happened, I can believe it. Where it's actually the other way around. You've got to believe something before you can see it.
I mentioned to you a few days ago about putting a feng shui protection against my wall for my neighbour that keeps attacking. And then you said that that's not a good thing, but I've also been thinking just recently. The mirror, yeah, putting the mirror, the feng shui mirror against it. Now then the other thing was, if we put protection around us every day, is also that going to be a wrong thing to do?
No, because every day people are continually putting out 24 hours a day criticisms of us. I mean, it's almost unconscious with some people. I mean, they might not like the color of your shirt, and they might not like, the color of your socks. They might not like that you're wearing two-tone socks or whatever. But there's a continual, the mass of people are continually putting out these negative criticisms continually. And I think it's our duty to protect ourselves. It's our duty to follow some of these laws that are written, like in the I Am, where you do have that protection around you, so that when all this mass of energy is coming at you, you are there, you are centered in your God presence. What I believe what you were talking about the other day, correct me if I'm wrong, is that if your neighbor is giving you a hard time, you put a mirror out so that when he puts his anger out at you, the mirror reflects it back. Well, I don't believe that's a good idea, because his anger is then going to be heightened twofold, and he will even react more to you. So when I'm talking about protection, I'm talking about using the law of light, which is the law where you're using either the violet flame, and you can use, there's the tube of white light, and there's the electronic circle, which you can also use, but these are all written in the I Am material. If you put up the mirror, he's only going to get more anger and find that he's then wanting to come after you more so, because he's not coming from a space of how can he love more. He's coming from a space of how can I get what I want more. Right, and if you're resisting it, it's going to continue on. Yes.
It's been a very interesting discussion regarding the spirit. I believe that we're here to do God's work, and that God's work is to make known the unknown. Now, when John was talking about the mitochondria and the manipole, I realized that the reason why we keep repeating the past, because we are frozen in the past.
Exactly. Which is now.
Yes, we're frozen. And therefore we are not doing God's work, and that is creating and making known the unknown, the new. What we keep doing is repeating the past, but projecting the past into the future and repeating it. Now, in regards to experience, I do not disregard any experience that I've had as being bad for me. It's made me who I am. It's made me who I am at this moment. And I'm here at this moment. And if I hadn't had all those experiences and some of the trauma that I've had, I would not be here trying to resolve them and gain wisdom from them. And reduce that melanin protein, get rid of it, so that I can be in the flow. And I can do what I'm here to do, which is make known the unknown. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Who has something else they'd like to share in closing? Come on up here, sir.
Sorry, John. I don't want to dominate, but yes I do, yes I do, yes I do. But could I come back to the feng shui problem? Feng shui deals with earth energies, and this is a personal energy problem. And so feng shui is probably not the best way to handle it. Could I suggest that you go one step further? In the tapes you'd have seen John and Anita talking about how you can clear metaphysical entities from bodies. But you can also handle the energies of other people using similar techniques. Now what I suggest you do, if you need to invoke the Ascended Masters, or you can come back through your higher self because your spirit has a mandate from God, and just ask that that negativity, that hate, should be transmuted into positive energy or to love, and sent back with perhaps white light or violet light, with love, light and joy to the person who sent it. And then that can cause absolutely no problem. Every time he puts hate out to you, he gets love back. And you can get a little message back with that. It goes, look, you know, Felicity loves you. Why are you doing this? And perhaps that's a simple, harmless way of doing it, using love, light and joy.
Thank you, sir.
Earlier on this this morning there, John, you were talking about people had to receive before they could give, and, well, question came to mind, what about people who don't wish to be worked on with the body electronics program, but want to work on others, and they can't help others if they don't wish to receive? Now, how does that work with this? Can they work on the others if they don't wish to receive themselves?
Yes, at first, but there has to eventually be an equality, shall we say, of sharing back and forth. The yin and yang have to be balanced. Most of us, if you take a look at for example, in the iris of the eye, many people have a very dark pupillary frill, which has to do with the central nervous system. And if that pupillary frill is dark, this means that there's an out of balance situation between the ability to receive or the ability to give. And somewhere there's some out of balance situation where either there's a resistance in receiving or a resistance in giving. And we have to learn how to not only, we have to look at the yin aspect, our ability to receive on one hand, or the ability which we have also of choosing not to receive, and find out, you know, it's blocked off one way or the other, or the ability to do, or the resistance in doing. And somehow we have a compulsion to do, or a compulsion not to do, or we have a compulsion, I must receive, or a resistance to receiving, and we're blocked off in somewhere on these areas. And we have to kind of sort through it and find out, where are we? Because we're all programmed to be blocked off in these areas. Oftentimes we want to help other people, but we don't want other people to help us. Or we want everyone to help us, but we don't want to help somebody else because we want to receive all the help. And this imbalance will show through no matter how good we think our intentions are. And so this is what I would look at here, Tom, is that we have to sort out these imbalances that are there. How much time do we have, Ian?
3/4 of an hour.
Pardon me?
Oh, well, it's gone to that. I think you're supposed to go to that part now.
10:30.
Well,
I didn't hear that.
Aren't we supposed to go till 10?
Till 10 o'clock. We got about a few more minutes. Slip this on here. Would you have? When the eye be single, it'll be full of light. Okay? And when the autonomic nerve wreath in the iris of the eye is circular, with no breakages in it and so on, no problems with it, then this is circular. If I were to expose a circle to you and you look at a circle and you muscle test a circle, it'll muscle test exceedingly strong. Now on the other hand, if you were to focus on a square like this, this is how we build our homes, with little square cubicles and so on. But if we were to focus on a square, we find that this weakens us. If we live in an architecturally designed roundhouse, so to speak, with lots of curves and lots of hemispherical shaped things like that have been in the architecture now, we feel good when we're in an open space of roundness. But when we're into a square situation like that, this saps our energy 24 hours a day as we're living in it, in the offices that we work in where we're dealing with life. Now, let's go and muscle test a square. It's going to muscle test weak. Now, in the sclera, not the sclera, in the iris of the eye, the autonomic nerve wreath that you're all familiar with, if that is squared off like this, then a person will have a death wish. They don't know consciously that they have a death wish. There are people in this room with a very definite squared off central, or shall we say, autonomic nerve wreath in the iris of the eye. And yet they very much consciously want to live. But I can guarantee to you that with point holding, when you get into a situation where you feel, I simply want to die because of our attachment to things or our losses to things to which we were attached, whether it be a dog or a cat or a parent or a job or our life savings or whatever, and we just say, I just want to die, I feel like I'm a failure, I want to go. At that time you receive that, and then you recreate that, I want to die, and you will find that you'll close up a huge hole in the auric field, which is indicated by a squared off autonomic nerve wreath, and that person will let go of something, and then automatically, that quickly, that squared off autonomic nerve wreath will go around. And I've seen that time after time after time. But you have to get in contact with the death wish. Now here's where you have to be willing to take the word pattern, I want to die, and be responsible for that, first of all in receiving it, and secondly in recreating it. Now, at that point, when you can look at life and death with the same degree of impartiality or equanimity, you become masters of life and death within your own body. Because you have not only the willingness and choice to live, you can also have the willingness and choice to die. If you resist death by saying, I don't want to die, under that you're holding the position that I'm dying. And you'll continue to create that death wish on the body and create the disease and symptoms of death within your body until you can let go of that. So when we get after break, when we get up to the room, up to the coral room, and we go in there and we start having point holding, as you're taking a look at one another's eyeball, look for the squared off autonomic nerve wreath. Now, that does not mean the person's going to die, but it means that they're operating now on a death wish, which if not corrected will bring about a condition of illness which will bring about their death. Because from the iridology point of view, a squared off autonomic nerve wreath is one of the sure signs of impending death. Now that impending death might be 10 years from now, but the thought pattern is still a very, very firm, I want to die. And here's where you do not need to be ashamed. You do not need to be fearful of embracing that I want to die from an exploratory point of view, where you're having fun looking at your own death wish, which was created in the past during some traumatic moment where you really, seriously wanted to die. Blow the doggone thing out of there and let it go. Don't deny it and perpetuate it. Fair enough? Okay. Yes.
When you only see the squared off in one eye, what does that mean?
You take a look at which side is it on. If it's on the left side, it's the female.
On the right side.
If it's on the right side, then that is where you've been blocked off in your creative ability. And you have kind of denied yourself somehow. If it's there, or the person who has it there, that is where you have a definitely blocked off in your creative ability, and you feel like you have failed, and then this is all suppressed traumatically within the being. Any comments or questions before we close now? I hope you've enjoyed the morning. Kanan, we'll turn the time over to you, sir.
Thank you, John. Yeah, it's morning tea as usual downstairs, and Jennifer has an announcement.
Is this on? Hello? Hello? We're on? No? Is this on now? Can you hear this back there? Okay, we're ready. I want to welcome you, every one of you here this morning. we've had 2 very full days, and as some people said, it felt like they've already lived a couple of lifetimes. That's fair enough. But in the process, of moving through these various experiences, you will find that oftentimes our belief systems are somewhat rattled. The methods that we have learned to deal with the healing arts or the human mind, we find this becomes all of a sudden very new for us. And all of a sudden we find ourselves with all of our props, shall we say, kicked out from beneath us, and we find ourselves wandering back and forth in our minds, not knowing quite what to do or how to do it. And so as quickly as possible this morning, we would like to handle questions that you have and try to build a solid foundation based upon logic and reason, that we may have something to build on rather than just kicking the props out from under us. And right now some people feel very, very I shall use the word fragile. I'll use the word fragile because they're seeing things that they didn't know existed, and they're looking at changes in people and circumstances that they have believed is not possible. And this oftentimes is very traumatic emotionally for people because they are suddenly open to new thinking and they don't know quite how to handle it. Now, I'd like to just read, I'm not going to, this is all anonymous here as far as I'm concerned, because these are questions that several people have that will be embodied in just simply one request for some sort of information here, and we'll do the best we can to handle it this morning. It says, does healing take place if one hasn't got the support of other family members, and one feels guilty for being here, and does a seminar, and do the seminar? If yes, do the same family members benefit even if they do not support you? Oftentimes we have people involved in body electronics that come from, let's say, a rigid fundamentalist background. And one person comes out of that background and they get involved in body electronics, where in the rigid religious background or fundamentalist background they come from, the only thing that is acceptable is the laying on of hands for healing. And they will not accept any type of medical help. They will not accept the help from a chiropractor or an osteopath. They won't get help from an alternative practitioner in any field, because all of that is not of God. The only thing that is of God is the laying on of hands and the healing by faith. Now, this is all very well and good because people are entitled to their belief system. But they will oftentimes, what's the word? Shunned. It's shunned is the word I want to use. They will shun a member of their community or even a member of their family if they so much as even look with a question mark at the doctrines which they're supposed to believe in. And all of a sudden this person is cast out of their family, cast out of their community, and is just doesn't know where to go or what to do, and it's a terribly traumatic thing. So they continue on doing the best they can under very, very adverse circumstances. And this is wherein you have one person coming out of one family, you have another person coming out of a rigid church background, you have another person coming out of a tyrannical type situation where one person leads an entire community under intimidation as a shall we say, as a self-appointed benevolent dictator, and you got situations where these people come out and then they have to kind of find their own way. They usually leave their financial things behind them because it's owned maybe collectively or by a family or relatives, and all of a sudden they're out totally on their own. It's a very, very traumatic thing. But in the search for truth, when a person has the search for truth, they go out and do the best they can, and they have to pay the price of that, even though it's traumatic. And they pay the price, oftentimes, of separating from their family members. They pay the price of being ostracized in their community. They pay the price of being excommunicated from their churches. And oftentimes I look upon that as graduation papers. You know, and it goes on and on and on. And it's a very difficult thing to have happen. We had one lady in Hawaii who was a Japanese lady, and she got involved in body electronics. She was totally ostracized by her family, cut off entirely from her family, disowned and disinherited by the family, because she got involved with body electronics and started associating with people outside of that very closed Japanese society. It's a powerful thing when you start thinking about it. The cultural considerations and the tremendous pressures put upon people.
You're psychic this morning.
No, I'm psychic. Your intentions just simply overwhelm me, Anita.
Oh, no, my own, I wanted to say that my own parents are, you know, they go the medical route. And, you know, I feel so ridiculous because I have all this knowledge, which I could help them with so many things. They write to me, oh, I have a cataract, I have this problem, I have that problem, and I know the solution, and I know what I could tell them to get better, and yet they write to me, oh, I'm going to see Dr. blah, blah, blah for this, and Dr. blah, blah, blah for that. And in the beginning, it was hard for me. Now, I just love them for what they're doing. I just send out love, and if they want to go see Dr. Rosencrantz or whoever, you know, I just let them go, and that's what they really want to do. And I think it's sometimes just allowing the person to do what they believe in is more loving than helping them take flax oil and life aids. And somebody said I was the bacon police this morning. And I said, don't you see my badge?
In the Cook Islands, people used to say, go talk to John, he's a softie, but Mama Anita.
They just didn't want to eat those pawpaws.
Okay, yes, sir. We need to get this on tape.
I'd like to know, can't you just offer your opinion to your parents, at least?
Oh, believe me, I have. Believe me. I have written them pages of letters. I have sent them supplements in the mail from wherever I've been. I have, you know, practically put everything on a silver platter in front of them and saying, look, you have to do this, 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 and you know what happens? Those supplements just rot there. They. That's right. Exactly. But oh yes, I've written them letter upon letter and tried, but
what's important is the communication lines have not been broken with the family. And that's one thing all of you need to remember. Just love your family where they are. If Uncle Joe, the best way that you can help Uncle Joe, for example, and let's say that he is a heavy meat eater, he smokes his cigars, he drinks his bourbon, and he enjoys it. Get him, for his birthday, a huge ham. Hey, you might think that's ridiculous, but he gets that great big ham in the mail from a confirmed vegetarian, and all of a sudden, Joe has a little drop of tear in his eye, and Uncle Joe knows that you love him, because you've hit him at his level of acceptance. Now, you know he loves those big Cuban cigars that are all wine-soaked, you know, and you might just let him know that you love him and send him 6 beautifully packaged cigars, because you know he's going to smoke them anyway. But by the very fact that you send him a cigar with a nice little note and let him know you love him, by golly, you'd be surprised how quickly they respond to that, because the rigidity of our natures are let down. But on the other hand now, I want to get back to this bit. Don't let anybody make you feel guilty for what you're doing. Are you free to make decisions with your life? Are other people free to make decisions with their life? But one of the greatest form of emotional blackmail is they tell you, you're doing this and this and this and you're hurting me. That's one of the greatest malicious controls that you can put over the soul of man. A person should be free, and don't let anybody emotionally blackmail you by having them tell you, you're hurting me because you are being true to your heart. This is difficult, because you have the whole family saying, you're disgracing us, you're hurting us, you're doing this and you're doing that. All you can do is love them, because they don't know what they're doing, but take a position with them very gently that that is pure emotional blackmail and nonsense, and that is coming from control issues where they're trying to control your life by their intimidation, by their anger, and by their own frustration that they can't make you do what they want you to do and force you into a shell. Y'all have that. Now, I hope this helps at least 6 people that I know who are having trouble like this. If a husband and wife are in a situation, now, in our relationship here, I want you all to know this. Sometimes I get a little bit frustrated with Anita, because I say on one hand that she's totally free to do exactly what her conscience directs her to do. Now, that's what I say. But because of my emotional attachments to my own feelings that sometimes are very, very powerful and very, very strong, when she's out of bed in the morning at 4 o'clock and out meditating, I miss her. Okay? And or when she gets to bed late at 1 o'clock in the morning, when I'm going to bed at 10 o'clock, I miss her, because there's not that communication there that I would like to have. But the thing is she being true to her heart? That is the most important thing that I want you to have with your relationship with one another, is if I have a desire where I get hurt because of what she does, whose hurt is it? It is my hurt, because my desires I'm attached to. It's because my own, what I want, is not happening. And therefore I get hurt because of my own desires, my own desire to control things around me so that it fits my own comfort zones. And so I tell Anita at times, honey, this has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me. I work through my little emotional feeling here and let her know that I entirely endorse her doing what she is free to do, but yet inside I hurt. Does she hurt? Yes, because there's certain controls that she is programmed with genetically and otherwise. And so I do things that bother her.
That's right.
Okay? But I'm being true to my heart also, which many years ago I said, no more are people going to tell me that I'm wrong, because that's only coming from their perspective, and they're trying to control me with emotional blackmail. No way. I put it right back on them. I say, hey, listen, that's your stuff. That has nothing to do with me. And if you're upset, and I am not hurting you, I'm just being me, then that is your reactive pattern. Now, don't try to burden me and make me wrong when all of this reactive pattern is coming from within you. And you have to have a gentle talk about these things and discuss them and work through them to where you can have a very beautiful, compatible relationship of mutually helping the other person along their pathway of their development, that they might fulfill their destiny according to the pathway that they're following. And where we come together in unity in different areas, then and working together and doing things together, how beautiful. Fair enough? And I want you to think about that, because these are individual struggles. And they're very subtle, and sometimes these conditionings or programming that we have can be a very powerful programming, because we want things the way we want them. Our desires we get attached to because we want things to be a certain way, and we are upset because they're not a certain way. They're not a certain way with our children who are now mature and they're not doing what we want them to do. Our grandchildren are not doing things that we don't want them to do, and we get ourselves attached to what they're doing or not doing because we're getting into the shoulda, coulda, wouldas of life. They should do it this way. If they were intelligent, they would have done it that way, and they could have done it this way if they had listened to proper guidance and direction. Fair enough? And we do that with our kids. All you can do is love your children. All you can really do is love your mate. Just love them. No conditions, no restrictions. There has to be some mutual guidelines and agreements and compromises along the way. But it's this thing of allowing other people to live their lives according to the dictates of their conscience, as we determine to live our lives according to the dictates of our conscience. And don't allow somebody to badger you and emotionally blackmail you and force you into a mold of their own desire, of their own control mechanism, of their own making, of their own programming. Just very gently try to point these things out to them and bring unity. And are they going to struggle then with their own emotions? Yes. But they'll love you for your kindness and gentleness in taking care of that matter and working through these crystals. And you might be the only person on the face of this earth that can help them. Gently, lovingly, patiently.
Sometimes when we're in a relationship that is very difficult for us, I'm not saying 100% of the time this is true, but a lot of times it's true, that when you feel that you have to switch the relationship to have a better life, and this is untrue, because you can go from the next relationship and then you carry all your crystals with you. It's not that the new person is going to change you. You still carry all your baggage along with you into the new relationship. I had a 12-year relationship before I met John. And I thought, after I broke up with him and I went with John, I thought, everything was going to be different. It wasn't different. Those same word patterns still came up. The word patterns are there. And so, yes, he had his faults too. I think we both had our faults. Now I see it as...
That's a matter of opinion.
Yeah, well...
And she's entitled to her opinion.
As I see it, we both had our faults. And I saw that I still had the same word patterns. Now, John was acting differently from the man I had been with, but yet I had the same word patterns. And so really what you've got to do if you're having an extremely hard time with your mate, I think, is start to write some of these word patterns down that are going through your head during the day. And start to look at them and see, is this something that has come way from your youth, way from the beginning of maybe something with your parents that happened, look at where this word pattern really is coming from. It may have nothing to do with the relationship at all. But yet, because you're with that person, you're putting it on that relationship. Do you understand what I'm saying?
This is for somebody in the room here, because I've got several questions in this area of relationships that I'm trying to address carefully. First of all, some people are being criticized from morning till night by their mate. They're told that they don't have any sense. They're told that they're making all kinds of mistakes and errors and whatnot and whatnot and whatnot. My question for you folks is, how long can a person continue to live when they're being invalidated just for being alive? They're being invalidated and criticized for no matter what they do, they are absolutely wrong. Now, I would say that give a person a year and try to reason with them and work it out, maybe longer. But oftentimes when you're being browbeaten and mentally blackmailed and, shall we say, being emotionally browbeaten, more and more and more and more, and told that you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, everything you say is wrong, everything you do is wrong, I don't love you anymore. Okay, who left who? They have already left you long time ago by their continual criticism, condemnation, their judgment, and their continual outflowing of anger and emotional blackmail. They have already left you. The decision has already been made. You do not have a relationship. Because to have a relationship, you need to work with it. So if they have already left you, and they continue along this pathway of drunkenness and alcohol and what have you, and physical abuse, mental abuse, emotional abuse. Now, if you want to stay in that, all you do is destroy yourself by remaining in that relationship. And you have to look at the position that you're not leaving them. They have already left you long ago because of their lack of support, their lack of their emotional acceptance of you, their lack of love for you. They have already left you. Now, if you want to live with that, go ahead. But you'll destroy yourself in the process because you can only hang on for so long until you succumb to that negative environment in which you find yourself every single day. Okay, that little black cloud is gone. I hope that is gone. But the thing is, don't feel guilty for leaving a situation where the other partner has already left you years ago. And that's what some of you are right in the middle of. You don't know what to do, you don't know where to go, and you feel guilty because you no longer want to be there. Well, put it this way. If a person is judging you and condemning you and criticizing you 24 hours a day, they certainly don't want you there either, and they don't appreciate you as a human being. How long are you going to take that type of degradation? Fair enough? It's just like if you have a dog and you beat the dog and you don't feed the dog, you don't care for the dog, and just beat the tar out of him, and then blame the dog because the dog leaves.
They usually don't, though.
Well, they're terribly loyal, but the fact remains with people. Oftentimes, if you take a coal out of the fire and put it by itself on the hearth, it goes out. You have to have that coal in the fire with people of like minds to keep that spirit of enthusiasm and zest for life going together. And that's where you need to find people of like mind that you can share with, that you can stimulate each other, rather than continually put yourself under the framework of a continual duress and stress where your light eventually goes out. Now I want you just to think about that. Find a few good friends that you can share with, that you can work with, that you can have fun with, and you can laugh and scratch with, and you're a wealthy person. Now, you may disagree with this type of thinking, because you might think, well, you make a commitment that for marriage, and marriage is forever. But what if the other person is every day they're breaking that commitment by their continually badgering, by their brutalness, by their emotional blackmailing of you? How long can you take that? They've already left you, my friends. Don't feel guilty because you want to leave. They have already left you. Put the emphasis where the emphasis should be. The other person has a responsibility of helping to maintain a relationship, and oftentimes you're going to go through 10 years, 5 years, 2 years of battering your head up against a brick wall and getting nowhere because you don't have the cooperation of the other individual. Don't make yourself guilty for being divinely human. Is that fair enough? Now, if you wish to take issue with me, I wish you would, and talk about it. Where's the devil's advocate here today? Come on up here, sir.
I shall get up and get my cloven feet and my tail and my horns and come out.
Ah, good. But you do have a voice.
Can I put a scenario up? The husband, and we'll call it the husband as the aggressor in this case. You know, it could be either, but let's call it the husband. And the husband really does love the wife, but his self-esteem is so low that he cannot believe that she loves him. So he sets up scenarios where she won't love him. And this is very real. And this is exactly the same cause and effect. But if we really are the people who have love in our hearts, and we think of light and we think of joy, can we look at this situation not as it appears on the surface, but what is the reason behind it? Go back and say, well, look, there is love. I know there was love. Why has it apparently gone? And if we can search our hearts and ask for guidance, wherever you get your guidance from, ask for help in this case, then perhaps with the application of love, light, joy and whatever, and help, and you may have to call in other help. And I probably not a professional help in the conventional sense, because that'll feed on that. Feed on that, you know. Oh, I'm not going to that bloody head shrink. No way in the world for that, you know. You're only driving me into this. It sets the thing off. So what I would suggest, the pattern may not be clear, and to look at it very, very carefully, but look at it with that love in your heart. Because, you know, the love was there. And love is a very precious thing, and it shouldn't be, you know, be wasted. And if a person can be helped, that's what we're here for. Every one of us is here to help people. Is that right? That's why we're here. We're all being called together. And so, you know, if it happens to any of us, but I suspect I've gone along that track too. I've got faults. I've got insecurities. I couldn't believe I'd found a woman so good she could care about me. But I was lucky. I got a good one. One who understood and cared. And so please, I can say that from the heart. Don't cast it off without giving it deep consideration. Fair enough, there are dark forces around. These things do happen. And if you do find that it cannot be saved, well, fair enough, John is dead right, you better to go. But the trouble is that if it could have been saved and you didn't, then your ex-partner is going to go and do it again and again and again. You know, and unless we can help them, it'll just perpetuate. And perhaps the children will do it because they've got role models, and it'll go on and on and on. So is it?
Can I say something? Yeah. I would like to say that I agree with him, because sometimes the people that are out there criticizing and doing all these terrible things, they need the most love. And then if we withdraw our love, then they even criticize more, because they're just crying out. They're saying, "Love me, love me, love me." Of course, they're not saying it that way. They're yelling at you and they're telling you you're terrible and you're not looking right and everything. But ultimately, they're saying, "Love me." And then if you just leave them and withdraw from them, that's even withdrawing the love more. And even in the Ascended Master teachings, they teach you that, Saint Germain, when he saw people going away from God, he sent more love and light to them. He didn't go away from them. He sent them more love and light. And so did Yogananda. He said, if you see a thief or somebody like that, you don't go away. You send them more love and light, because these people really need it.
I think the biggest problem is in our society that we judge always the other person. The biggest problem in our society is that we're always judging the other person and not ourselves. Unconditional love is accepting and respecting yourself and the others how they are.
Now, I would say that in every decision, get into a very close relationship with the God within. What we will call the Great Spirit, call it what you wish. But get in contact with the God within and be patient. And after a while, you will then be moved upon by the Spirit of God to do the right thing, which is appropriate in view of outer conditions. But oftentimes the best help we can have is not our reasoning or the reasoning of other people, but the reasoning that comes from the God within. And this takes a bit of doing. And so therefore the final decision is going to be yours, and you have to live with it. Now, are there alternatives every day for decisions? There are. No question about it. But the decision that you make, you must feel that this is right, and then you're destined to live with that decision that you make, because oftentimes decisions that you make are irreversible. You can't go back and pick up the spilled milk, so to speak. And once a decision is made, it's cast in concrete sometimes, and you can't go back and make corrections, because this puts you off in a certain direction that you can't go back and you can't go back and change it. All of us have made decisions, and 10 years down the stream, you look at things and you wonder, well, could it have been different? And the answer is yes, it could have been different if we had made other decisions, but we made the decisions that we have made. Is that fair enough? Now that we have to look at and be very reasonable with.
Just going by what John was saying yesterday, actually, yesterday morning, I think you said that, are we controlled by belief patterns? That's right. Well, I've been through 2 divorces, and I'm still fairly young, so I had a... I don't particularly want to try a 3rd one yet. Well, see, otherwise you operate by a belief system that's never going to work, don't you? So I had to have a really good look, and this is what's brought me on my quest to meet people like yourselves. I mean, 18 months ago I had green eyes, dark green eyes, and a pretty low self-esteem. Hey?
One day I'll get up to that level.
But what you have to do, I think, is because what I have learnt in the last 18 months, with some help from some very, very incredible friends I met before this journey, was that if you have to have a look at everything that happens to us is something that we've brought on ourselves. Everything that happens to us, and that's a hard one to get over sometimes. Every day of the week I struggle with that. 24 hours a day. Everything that happens to me is something that I have brought on myself, and you can't blame anybody else for it. You have to look at your own belief systems, and that's what you're gonna find here when you're doing it. When you're out there on those tables getting point held, and John's there saying, scream it out, love it, enjoy it, you're delving into those belief systems, and they hurt. And the ones that you can't unlock are the ones that are holding where you are right now. I haven't got any secret for that. That's something you've got to get over yourself. But get over it, you will. But there is something that I have learned, and this one's very hard too. And it goes like, it is none of my business what someone else sees or believes about me. It's none of my business what someone else, whether it be your partner, your mother or your father or your kids. It is none of my business what someone else sees or believes about me. And that one's a hard one too. So,
I'd like to make this statement. If you have book 1 of the Logic and Sequence series, one of the most important things that you can learn is what is found in chapter 11 of book 1, entitled The List. There's information there that if you carefully go through that prayerfully, you will have set up before you a pathway, and it doesn't matter where you are in life, but you have something there that you can work with to put order in your life that will expose all of your belief systems, all of your reactive mechanisms in such a way, while you're dealing with what we will call your karmic considerations, or dealing with those things that are your responsibilities to deal with in some responsible manner. And you can order your life. And oftentimes we have at this time unsolvable problems that we don't know how to handle. You put those at the top of the list. But you can certainly spend your time setting order in your life by doing those things where you can see the end from the beginning, where you work at the bottom of your list. Now read very astutely, very prayerfully, chapter 11 of book 1 of the Logic and Sequence series, and take that to heart. And I'll say this, that will probably be one of the most important things that you can learn and apply. This was given to me during a white light experience, and all the information is there. The directions are there. The understanding is there if you pray for it. And you can see how this will pull yourselves very quickly out of some of the, shall we say, problems that we're having, and set your life in order in such a way that life becomes a very beautiful, joyful, shall I use the word exciting thing every single day of your life. It'll work for you. But that's chapter 11 of book 1. It's called The List. Study it faithfully, prayerfully, and apply it, and you will not be disappointed. Yes?
What about my turn?
Kyle? Kyle's kidding, of course.
Only slightly.
Speaking about abusive relationships, when men or women come to see me and they say they're in an abusive relationship and it's coming from the other side of them, their male or female partner, I ask them why, out of all the men and all the women you could have chosen for a partner, have you chosen this partner? Why? What are you having to learn? And they say, oh, he, she was quite different when I met them. They changed shortly afterwards. And I say to them, well, at a certain level, at a subtle level, you knew who they were when you met them. So if you consider what it is you have to learn and what they're learning, maybe these things will be put to rest and changes will come about. And so then we go to work and they go to work on themselves. And then their partners do change. The mirror they're looking in changes because they change. And lots of times when we blame others, this is where it begins, always. This is where it begins. and we look at what we have to learn.
Thank you. Kyle, are you still in the mood? Oh, yes.
Some belief systems that I've come across. This you might remember hearing these or feeling these or thinking these, but I've noticed sometimes it seems to be the best thing that can happen for a pair of people is for the pathways of communication to stay open while each of them finds their own individuality for a period of time and realizes that they've actually given up the desires of their heart for the other person, thinking that's what they're supposed to do because their parents did that. And they don't follow their own heart, and they get resentful of it later on, and they want to leave and blame the other person because they haven't followed and been true to their own heart. And in these situations I've observed a tremendous amount of healing occurs in the people when they actually separate for a time. They don't separate by running off and finding someone else the first night, you know. They just separate for a little period of time. A shoulder is still there to lean on. A voice is still there to be heard, and an ear is still there to hear. And a heart is still there to share. But, you know, you have these people, I come across these people, you know, I'll die without him. If he goes or she goes, I don't know what I'll do. They're my whole world. You know? Anyone remember this?
I have sacrificed my life for you.